Good morning, Eastern Stars!
Today is Thursday, October 6th, 2022. I'm Lainey. I'm Eleni.
I'm Mr. Cooper.
I'm Jane.
And it looks like we have, what is your favorite sweet?
Yeah.
Okay, your favorite, like a sweet treat to
Yeah.
eat. Okay, what's your favorite?
Cupcakes.
Any cupcakes?
Yeah.
Um,
Vanilla cupcakes.
Vanilla cupcakes for Jane. I like ice cream.
Anything but cupcakes.
Oh,
But
poor
slushie's my personal favorite.
Slushies, got it.
Cookies.
And cookies that you bake yourself, I'm sure. All right, now you know a little bit more
Or
about
giant
us. Speaking of food, what's for lunch?
First choice is whole grain pancakes with yogurt parfait, and second choice is a salad bar. And tomorrow's lunch choice is whole grain pepperoni pizza or whole grain cheese pizza.
Pepperoni pizza or cheese pizza tomorrow. We have no kid birthdays.
But we have one staff birthday to celebrate. Happy birthday to Miss Heights. We wish you a fantastic birthday.
Mrs. Heights' birthday is today, and I won't say anything about how old Mrs. Heights is, because you're not supposed to ask, right? Isn't that the rule? Okay.
I get a feeling that Mac is going to ask.
You think her students are going to ask her? Okay, we'll find out. Maybe
Specifically
I'm going to have Mac ask and see how old Mrs. Heights truly is. Survey time. Is Mrs. Heights older than 50 years old? Raise your hand if you think Mrs. Heights is older than 50. Anybody?
What? I think she's older.
Do you know who Mrs. Heights is, Eleni?
No, but I think she might be.
Eleni doesn't know who
No,
Mrs. Heights
you
is.
do not.
Does anybody think that Mrs. Heights is between 40 and 50 years old? In her 40s?
No.
Does anybody think Mrs. Heights is between 30 and 40 years old?
Yeah.
30 and 40 years old? So she's in her 30s?
Probably.
35 to 45 or something.
Does anybody think Mrs. Heights is still in her 20s?
Either in her 20s or her 30s.
20s.
She's like 26 or something.
She's like 26, you think? All right. Anybody think Mrs. Heights is still a teenager?
No.
No? Okay, we better stop with this. We'll see what Mrs. Heights says to me after these announcements. All right, happy birthday, Mrs. Heights. What's the weather like today, Eleni?
Today's weather is going to be rainy, although the day will with a high of 60 degrees. You might want to get ready for some indoor recess.
I'm ready to play some
rain
progressive
today.
spins.
Speaking of recess,
Speaking of recess, you will notice that sometimes there are high school students walking or running around the track. It is important to let them concentrate on their running and not to interrupt them by talking and shouting at them. You will all be there someday.
right, you'll be one of those high school students someday, so don't interrupt the high schoolers. We have some shout outs.
I would like to give a shout out to Mac in Mrs. Heights' class for helping a friend when he got hurt.
Oh, nice job, Mac.
Miss LeBerry would like to give a shout out to
Harper,
Harper, Rose,
Rosie,
Valen,
Valen,
oh my god, I'm so bad.
and Griffin.
Emily and Tessa for helping to keep our room clean.
Nice job cleaning up, Mrs. LeBerry students.
Mrs. LeBerry would like to give a shout out to Alex for being such an awesome class leader yesterday.
All right, and that's all the announcements we have for you today, but let's see the status of those butterflies because things have changed a little bit. We actually have 1, 2, and then there's 3, 4, and then there's a 5th one. There's 5 butterflies that have emerged, and luckily for us, we have some students from Mrs. Culver's class that is on the case for figuring out what kind of butterflies these are. So as soon as they do their research and inform me, I will let the rest of you know. Thanks, Mrs. Culver's class, for doing that for us. Okay, that's all for now. Remember to have a safe,
trustworthy, attentive, and respectful day.
Be a star. Have a
Thundering Thursday, and please
for the Pledge of Allegiance.